between politics and religion is being waged here in the Philippines over a family planning bill. The Catholic Church has managed to stall the legislation for the past 16 years, saying it would promote immorality. But supporters of the bill say birth control is needed to manage the nation's rapid population growth. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask if the Catholic Church in the Philippines is affecting the country's health. Catholicism in the Philippines is more than just a religion. It's a culture, a way of life, and an identity for more than 80% of the population. In the world's third largest Catholic nation, the Church's word on daily life is greatly revered. But increasingly, the institution finds itself challenged over its opposition to a proposed reproductive health bill. The legislation promotes the use of contraceptives, which the Church equates to abortion and warns would promote promiscuity.
This is not simply a Catholic issue. It is a Filipino issue, and I even dare say it is an Asian issue. So we view it as a Western imposition of their culture to our own culture, which is basically family-oriented, and we love children. We love life, essentially.
The Catholic Church encourages Filipino couples to practice natural family planning, but critics say it's an ineffective birth control method in a country suffering from overpopulation. With 2 million children born each year, the United Nations warns that by 2025, the Philippines will not have enough resources to feed its burgeoning numbers. While contraceptives are available over the counter, activists want them made even more accessible, especially to poor communities. But Father Melvin Castro disagrees.
They're trying to solve the problem according to the haves. Why don't we ask the poor what they need? And they would not say contraceptives. They would say jobs, housing, livelihood, education, which they have none. And this is what the people need.
Manila is one of the most densely populated cities in Asia, an issue that's magnified in its slums. 38-year-old Liza Cabian, her husband and their 13 children share a small, cramped space in a run-down shack.
It's very hard to take care of them. Sometimes we don't have enough money to feed them.
Liza says she and her husband never intended to have so many children, but could not afford contraceptives.
We seldom have sex, but it just so happens that when we did, I would get pregnant.
Liza says she can't support any more children and, on the advice of her eldest daughter, has decided to turn to artificial contraceptives. Today, she is attending a health clinic to receive free birth control pills.
When you make birth control pills accessible, poor women like me will have time for ourselves. And we can take care of our children and give them better education.
The clinic provides free contraceptives, including condoms, pills, intrauterine devices, and injections. Dr. Junis Melga conducts the clinic once a month and says a wider knowledge of birth control has led to more demand for contraceptives.
Josie, kumusta ka na?
We followed her as she visited women who have just begun using artificial birth control methods. The Church advocates natural family planning methods. In your opinion, does that work? Is that working?
That is not working. In this community, women actually ask for artificial, which are the most effective methods. And they have, many women here have 7, 8, 9, 11, sometimes 13 children. So they want a family planning method that can help them stop actually.
But this is a majority Catholic community as well. Do they feel that using artificial contraceptives goes against their religion in any way?
Well, I think you have to differentiate between the teaching of the church and what people believe in, because they are Catholics and yet they embrace family planning as something that's also like a God-given gift, that they have to make sure that all their children are being taken care of, that they can go to school, they have enough food. So that for them is also just as Catholic as, you know, as the advice against the family planning method.
The Philippines is ranked as the 13th most populous nation in the world, with nearly 100 million people right across its archipelago. Observers say that as long as that population number continues to rise, this developing nation will not be able to provide basic services for its people, like education, housing, and medical care. The government-run Dr. Jose Fabela Memorial Hospital has the largest maternity ward in Manila.
Good morning.
But budget limitations mean each bed is shared by 2 mothers and their newborns, while 1 nurse has to attend to 10 mothers. The head of family planning, Dr. Esmeralda Ilem, says the hospital is feeling the strain of handling up to 70 births a day and believes the reproductive health bill will help.
The major part of the reproductive health bill is maternal and child health. If they will not pass the reproductive health, it is not only family planning that will suffer, but also the provision of services in the other elements of the reproductive health.
Ocampos, Olivares.
The reproductive health bill has been held up in Congress for the past 16 years. But under President Noynoy Aquino, the legislation has cleared several hurdles and is at a crucial stage in the House of Representatives. Some politicians say there is a need to separate faith from facts.
This bill is not about condoms and pills alone. It is not about sex and religion. It is about right. The right of parents to freely and responsibly determine the number and spacing of their children. It's about health, the health of mothers and infants, consistent with our Millennium Development Goal to reduce infant mortality and improve maternal health. And it is about reduction of poverty and attainment of sustainable human development.
It's a cry that's gaining momentum. Today, Filipinos who support the bill, like Liza, are rallying to ask the Catholic Church to stop opposing the bill. They want the Church to recognize the human cost of poor reproductive health services in the country.
It's been 25 years since the Catholic Church was instrumental in rallying people power to topple President Ferdinand Marcos's regime. Since then, subsequent Filipino governments have been careful to court the Catholic Church's support. But now it seems the tide is turning.
Reproductive health bill,
Today, a younger generation of Filipinos is rallying their own people power in the hopes of ending the Catholic Church's influence over state affairs.
What we are seeing with what's happening with regards to the RH bill is a milestone. I mean, this is the farthest that we've gone in terms of the passage of the RH bill in the past 16 years that we've been trying to get it passed. And the tide has shifted, I think. The church is becoming very defensive, and it's a sign that the true separation of church and state is at hand.
Even within the clergy, there are voices who feel the church's hierarchy may be out of step with the nation's reality.
Our faithful are demanding arguments from the church that stand up to the tests of reason. It's not enough anymore to say, do this because the Pope says so. The Catholic Church should harness the intellectual prowess of its philosophers and theologians to come up, if it can, with arguments that do not depend on Catholic scriptures, Catholic teaching, Catholic tradition, so that the Catholic Church can take part in the public process of debate.
And while the debate over the reproductive health bill continues, many Filipinos are praying their political and religious leaders do not lose sight of the bigger picture, and that is the dire need to improve the health of every mother and child in the Philippines.
For more on the issue of the Catholic Church's influence on family planning programs here in the Philippines, we're in Manila and we're joined by Bishop Teodoro Bacani, who is a member of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines. Attorney Edwin Larcierda is the presidential spokesman of the Noynoy Aquino administration. And Elizabeth Angciocco is the national chairperson of the Democratic Socialist Women of the Philippines organization. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Elizabeth, if I could start with you. This bill has been languishing in Parliament for the last 16 years or so. Why do you think it hasn't been passed so far?
There are two reasons, major reasons, why we think the bill hasn't been passed. First is the influence of the Roman Catholic Church on our politics, and second is the kind of politics and politicians that we have at this point. The first, we feel that the Constitution mandates the separation of church and state, and therefore we very strongly believe that the church, while it is composed of citizens, should not, as an institution, meddle in making legislations, for one, and also implementing policies. And secondly, it is also very important to note that our politicians, on the other hand, if only they really listen to what people say and have in their hearts what people want to happen to address their own problems, they would have passed this bill a long time ago.
Very strong words there, Bishop.
Yes.
Do you think the church is meddling in political affairs?
I don't think so. You know, I was a member of the Constitutional Convention or Commission that drafted this present Constitution, and I was a member of the committee that drafted precisely that proposition on the separation of church and state. And certainly the separation of church and state does not mean that the church as an institution cannot speak on matters of public affairs. Just like any other group in society, we have a complete right to pronounce our opinions on matters of public concerns from the point of view of morality.
Edwin, do you think there is a clear delineation between church and state in the Philippines?
Yes,
particularly in this subject?
Yes, we do. We view the church as one of the major stakeholders. During the campaign for the presidency, Senator Aquino already mentioned about his 5-point statement on responsible parenthood. He has not changed his position. During the campaign also, the senator wrote the bishops about the concerns that they have against the position of the then Senator Aquino. So we asked for a dialogue, and it was only recently that we've opened up a dialogue. We don't view the church as interference. We view it as their concern for, they have their own moral concerns over the
You say you've opened up a dialogue.
Yes.
However, that dialogue just seems to be with the church. Are you engaging other interested organizations in this
That's a
as
good
well?
question.
Women's rights organizations?
That's a good question. We are going to engage them. In fact, this week we're going to meet with them. So we are engaging all the stakeholders in this particular issue. We've done it with the church. We are still doing it with the church. We're also going to do it with the reproductive health advocates as well.
Elizabeth, it's fair enough. The bishop raised a very important point there. The church has a right to speak up, particularly on moral grounds.
Yeah, actually, we don't contradict the church on that. I said earlier that the church is also composed of citizens. However, I don't think that it's right or moral for the church to actually impose what it believes on others. First, the Philippines is not entirely a Catholic country.
But it's a majority Catholic country.
It is a majority Catholic country.
So the Catholic
yes.
Church is very influential and has a very loud voice, as we've seen from history as well in the Philippines.
But if you go back to all the surveys that have been done, all surveys by credible firms like the SWS and Pulse Asia, they point to the fact that more than 80% of our Filipino people actually want the bill to pass. That's first. And second, if you look closely at the respondents, about 87% of the respondents were Catholic, or they consider themselves to be Catholic. I mean, this is also the voice of the Catholic people. And secondly, I'm very happy, Secretary Lacerda, that you said that you are going to meet with other stakeholders, because you know we have that letter pending at the office of the president for more than a month now, requesting for a dialogue. But now that you're saying that you're going to meet with us, we're very happy. I can assure you that you will you will get substantial inputs from us, and that would be a fruitful dialogue.
The statement of the President in the campaign was for the propagation of information on both natural and artificial family planning methods. That's the reason why there was a concern from the church. So we are assuring both parties, the church and the reproductive health advocates, that we're going to listen to both of them.
That seems to be the crux of the argument here, isn't it?
Yes.
What is natural family planning? What is not natural family planning? Bishop, what exactly is the main opposition?
First, let me correct the impression that Beth gave here. The church does not impose. I mean, our position, we can only persuade people because we have no army, we have no coercive power in society.
But you do have, traditionally, you do have
That's
powerful
right. Yeah, well, then
influence
it's
here
only
in this
the fate
country.
of the people which will, and that's a voluntary assent on their part. That's not really, we have no compelling force.
That's fair enough. But let's just get back to the question here. What is the main opposition of the church towards family planning as proposed in the bill?
Well, let me say this. Towards responsible parenthood, we have no beef against that. Towards family planning, we are also agreeable to that. Now, as to the ways of family planning, first of all, we oppose the use of abortifacients in family planning, and especially
so these
for
are
the
like
government
birth control
to fund
pills, IUDs.
Fund.
Is that
Yes.
what you're talking about?
Yes.
Right.
Because it's well known. It's the mechanism of many of these contraceptive pills, even the pills alone. That first, they prevent ovulation, they're contraceptive. Second, they prevent fertilization, they're still contraceptive. But the third action of these contraceptive pills is they prevent the nidation or the implantation of the fertilized ovum on the uterus. And that is already an abortifacient action. And that is admitted now by medical books, by doctors. And our Philippine Medical Association, with 70,000 members, has said that is already abortifacient. That when you try to hurt or to stop from developing fertilized ovum, that is already abortion.
Does the bill promote abortion?
No, definitely not. And actually, I just want to say first that this is our ovaries the country is talking about. This is the women's ovaries. And it is our lives too, because if you look at the data, 11 of us die daily because of maternal mortality rates, and we have the second highest in Asia. I mean, if you look closely, these women who are dying are actually the poor women, those who don't have access to what the bishop does not want to provide them, first and foremost, because studies would also show that proper family planning program, an effective family planning program can actually prevent maternal deaths by 32%, by 1/3. I think on that matter alone, and it's the women's lives, I think there should be no question about that. I also want to comment one on the coercion thing. True, Bishop, you don't have arms, you don't have the army, but we also know that, for instance, in masses, you know, congressmen and women are being singled out if they know that these politicians are for reproductive health bill. I mean, if you are the representative and you are there and you're called anti-life, I mean, that is something. That's one.
Attorney, do you think the church is far too influential on Philippines politics?
Well, certainly they have influence. They can use the pulpit as a way of presenting their moral advocacy. But again, we have made it very clear to the church that we are standing for both natural and artificial family planning method. Interesting, during in the discussion with the dialogue with the bishops, the issue of abortifacient came out, and we told the bishops in two dialogues already that this dialogue is not to define what abortifacient is. It is for you in the Congress the strength of our argument should be presented in Congress. And that's why there's agreement in both sides to move forward with the dialogue and leave the issue of whether a contraceptive is abortifacient or not in Congress.
Well, Bishop, let me then ask you this question. Overpopulation here in the Philippines. Where does the church stand on that issue?
Well, the church has no no doctrinal stand on that issue. That is a free matter for people to decide.
But you have to
know,
understand,
they
though,
that
that overpopulation
No,
leads to more poverty. There's a burden on the infrastructure. There's a burden on the nation's economy.
Yeah, well, actually, they disown that. You ask the proponents of the bill. Right now, the consolidated bill, they said that's not our concern in the present form of the bill.
In, Bishop.
Wait, I have a copy of the bill.
I
right
have a copy
now.
of the bill too, and I almost know it by heart. The bill very clearly says that while nothing in this law changes the law on abortion, meaning it will remain to be illegal, the bill also wants to provide what you call these post-abortion services to those women who actually suffer from this. Let me tell you why. More than 500,000 of our women actually have abortions, no matter if it's illegal. More than 500, and that's 500,000 lives. And most of these are unsafe, you know. And about 80,000 actually are hospitalized. 1,000 of these women yearly die. I mean, what kind of society are we if you don't care about these women? This is really about providing choice. I don't know if there would ever be a consensus between the government and the bishops in terms of making illegal contraceptives that even the World Health Organization have included in their list of effective medicines.
Bishop, let me just ask you this question as well. What Elizabeth and the bill, I think, is proposing really is providing information, providing choice. If that information includes that these are the natural way of family planning, as well as there are other methods of family planning, and you can give them a choice, would you be happy with that?
Well, put it this way. As regards giving information, yes, we're all for that. But give them the full information. There is a constitutional bar, no, which says that the state shall equally protect the life of the mother and the life of the unborn from conception. So that is abortion. You avoid overt abortion by promoting covert abortion. Well, are you gaining anything? You're only increasing the number of abortions.
Internationally, the definition of abortion is pregnancy termination. I mean, that is the scientific definition of abortion, and we stick by that.
We're getting stuck on the definition of abortion.
This is the kind of debate that we had with the dialogue.
This
That's
is
why we
the
decided
crux
to
of the
move
debate,
forward.
isn't it? It's science versus religion. Is that right?
Not necessarily. We committed during the dialogue that you were mentioning about access to information, and we said, yes, we'll provide access to all information, both natural and artificial. But that was precisely the where we got stumped a bit during the dialogue, the issue and the definition of abortive fashion. And that's the reason why we told the bishops, this is not the place to define to us that what abortive fashion is. It is with the legislature.
I'm going to have to wrap up this debate, I'm afraid. Edwin, do you think there will be a compromise between the Catholic Church and between activists over this issue?
Based on the arguments presented here, this will be echoed again in the halls of Congress. I don't think there will be a compromise, but sooner or later they will have to have a bill passed.
Bishop, do you think there will be a law passed?
The bishops have very openly said that we unanimously, strongly reject the reproductive health bill. If it contains still those objectionable portions.
If the bill is passed as it is now, and if it does include the reproductive health bill currently, what will happen to the Catholic Church?
Well, I don't know what would happen to the Catholic Church. I know what we will do. We continue to protest. We will, you know, we can protest in a non-violent way and see what happens.
Elizabeth, what do you think needs to happen for this bill to be passed?
One, it will be very good if the President can include it in its list of urgent measures, meaning to certify it as urgent. It will be very helpful. Secondly, Congress should really go on with the way it's working. I mean, we have to commend Congress at this point because for 16 years and then now they're really working on this. I think that we will be able to pass this. But one point, just one very important point, I want to say that the reproductive health bill goes beyond family planning. It has in it life-saving services that will save women's lives. And to us, that's most important.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And that's all the time we have for this edition of 101 East. You can always follow the program through our Facebook, website and podcast. From the team here in Manila, Philippines, thank you very much for joining us.